The Grand Convocation of the Deathworld Accord met only once every galactic cycle, and even then, only under the direst circumstances. The summit, held on neutral ground in the orbital stronghold of Xeron Prime, was designed to prevent extinction-level wars among apex predators, war-bred empires, and planetary death machines. Attendance was mandatory for all Deathworld representatives. The atmosphere, however, was tense but manageable. Delegates snarled in ceremonial fashion, scenting one another's pheromonal traces, some breathing toxins into their helmets as tradition dictated. The summit was proceeding predictably, bloodless, tedious, and impressively well-behaved, until the humans walked in. They didn't roar. They didn't deploy intimidation pheromones. They didn't arrive late or early. They simply arrived. 4 of them. No weapons drawn, no armor powered. Just simple, efficient uniforms and a cold glint in their eyes that said they had no patience for games. High Executor Varlock of the Kravari was the first to comment. "You are not listed on the scheduled rolls," he growled, his talons already clicking in war code. The humans ignored him and took their seats, at the central table. The central table. Varlock recoiled, stunned at the insult. The central table was reserved for dominant Deathworlders. Only those who had wiped out at least one other dominant species were allowed to sit there. The humans said nothing. No apology. No ceremony. Just presence. Undeniable. Inescapable. Counselor HFY of the Clorox Spore Collective tried to object diplomatically. This summit is to ensure the limitation of planetary aggression. Earth is barely 3 centuries into spaceflight. By what right do you? The tallest human, Commander Rourke, passed a file across the table. Inside, footage. Dozens of files. One showed a Clorox hive cluster being incinerated from orbit. No warning, no survivors. Another showed a Kravari warpack being surrounded by mechanized infantry, then neutralized with a single chemical burst. No corpses. Just silence. "We weren't invited," said the shortest human, a female named Torres, "because you thought we wouldn't matter. We're here now because you were wrong." For the first time in its history, the summit fell silent. Humans had remained an unquantified threat, largely because no one could understand their internal logic. Their Deathworld classification was Tier 9, but they didn't behave like other Tier 9s. They didn't seek galactic dominance openly. They didn't join coalitions. They didn't issue ultimatums. They just learned, waited, evolved, quietly, efficiently. The summit attendees shared glances. Something unspoken passed between the seasoned war leaders, an ancient understanding of predators recognizing something worse. Something not governed by instinct, ritual, or rage. Torres tapped a control node and projected Earth's timeline. Wars. Plagues. Nuclear winter. Resource collapse. Artificial intelligence skirmishes. They had not only survived each one, they had emerged stronger. Cleaner. Deadlier. "You invited each other to survive," she said. "We trained on extinction." High Executor Varlock stood. "You insult the Accord. You come without recognition, without clearance, without consent." Rourke stood too. "We've never needed consent to end a war." HFY vibrated in alarm, spores misting involuntarily. "Then what is your intention? Domination?" "No," said Rourke. "Correction." Torres took over. "Your wars destroy ecosystems, collapse civilizations. You don't fight for survival. You fight because it's ritual, habit, culture. But the galaxy has changed. And your games threaten more than just your species now. They threaten ours. And we don't play games." The summit chamber, protected by layers of psychic dampeners and acoustic filters, had never experienced the sensation of fear. Not until that moment. The representative from the Talvath warlords, a 4-ton insectoid with acid glands, clicked nervously. "You claim authority with no mandate." "You gave us one," said Torres. "The first time you attacked a colony. You gave us another every time you ignored your own armistice code. And the final mandate was when you tried to isolate Earth in galactic trade. One by one, data records appeared, covert sanctions, blockades, resource denials. All unprovoked. All traced back to the existing Deathworld coalition. We noticed, Rourke said simply. HFY hissed. You retaliated with sterilization bombs. Those are classified as extinction-class weaponry. Torres didn't blink. That hive was producing cognitive viruses that embedded in refugee children. That was a rescue mission. They didn't try to sound heroic. They sounded surgical, clinical. A delegate from the Ferric swarms spoke for the first time. If you are here to replace the Accord, you will find yourself at war with all of us. Rourke leaned forward. We counted on that. That's why we brought samples. Another file appeared. This one showed orbital debris fields. Not generic battlefields, but specific, recognizable fleet. The Ferric Second Swarm. The Talvath Echelon Cruiser. A Kravari planetary forward base. All gone. Minimal losses on the human side. Most missions completed by drone fleets or AI-piloted warforms. We've already been at war, Torres said. You just didn't notice. The summit dissolved into chaos. Subvocal war codes chirped through encrypted channels. Delegates retreated to private chambers. Emergency alerts sounded across multiple ships docked in orbit. The humans waited. No fear. No bluster. Just inevitable wait. The Xeron Prime security system kicked in. Defense drones hovered over the humans. One moved in to scan. It short-circuited before making contact. Rourke never even raised a finger. Don't do that again, he said flatly. HFY turned more translucent than usual. You're interfering with the sovereign protocols of this accord. This accord is broken, Torres replied. You brought us here by ignoring consequences. We're just here to remind you that consequences still exist. The delegate from the Vascari Enclave, an ancient warrior species known for ceremonial genocide, issued a challenge. If humans truly believe themselves capable of replacing this body, then let them survive the trial of Apex. Several delegates froze. That ritual hadn't been invoked in 12 cycles. It was a death gauntlet, designed to destroy any upstart species daring to claim apex status. No species had survived it since its creation. We accept, Rourke said before anyone else could speak. Even the Vascari faltered. You don't even know what it entails. We'll figure it out on the way. The humans stood. The summit was no longer in control. In a single appearance, the humans had altered the gravitational center of galactic diplomacy. Not through threat. Not through coercion. Through inevitability. As they exited, one of the younger delegates from a lesser Deathworld turned to their elder. Why didn't anyone warn us the humans were this advanced? The elder exhaled through his filtration lungs. Because no one survived long enough to file a proper report. Torres turned once more at the doorway. You've all evolved to survive planets that try to kill you. We evolved by surviving each other. Don't forget that. Then they were gone. And the summit, once considered the most powerful diplomatic force in the known galaxy, was left with a single horrifying realization. Humanity had never needed an invitation. They were already the storm. The trial of Apex had not been enacted in over 4,000 years. Its origin was obscure, written in extinct dialects and guarded by species long since obliterated. It was not a trial of strength. It was a test of essence, of what a species was when all illusions of superiority were stripped away. The summit had triggered it in arrogance. The humans accepted in silence. That terrified the Council more than any weapon. The trial began with what the Vascari called the null phase. No communication, no aid, no external resources. Each participant would be dropped on a neutral Deathworld with hostile biospheres, with no prior knowledge of terrain, threats, or variables. It was meant to shatter cohesion and test raw adaptability. Most species sent their elite warbloods, biotanks, or shape-shifting assassins. Humanity sent 4 people. No exosuits, no command uplinks, no biodrones, Just 4 individuals armed only with basic kits and an attitude that screamed, "You've already made your worst mistake." The Deathworld, named Carthix 9, had never been successfully colonized. High gravity, caustic air, flora that hunted back. Every delegate assumed humanity's representatives would last an hour, 2 at most. By midday, one of them had already skinned a native predator and turned it into breathable membrane. Another one had reverse-engineered a moss that secreted carbon-neutral plasma. Surveillance footage caught them mapping terrain using triangulated acoustic bursts made with nothing more than rock and saliva. No tech, just problem-solving. The Kravari delegation watched the footage with widening eyes. "This is not survival," Varlock hissed. "This is domination." The Clorox agreed in terrified consensus. The humans were not adapting. They were conquering the trial. By the second phase, known as the isolation spiral, the Deathworld itself began adapting. The trial AI launched weather disruptions, neurotoxin rain, acid storms, and tectonic quake. Most species responded by calling for evacuation or triggering bioshield. The humans climbed higher. They calculated fault lines, tapped geothermal heat, and used protein strings from local predators to synthesize shock-resistant shelters. One delegate from the Martari Compact whispered, "They're not reacting to threat, they're re-engineering the problem." The Vaskari warlords, bound by tradition, still believed this was a show, that the humans were bluffing. So they activated the third tier early. Combat extraction. Trial guardians, machines forged before the Galactic Code was written, deployed to terminate the participants. Even Kravari war packs had fallen before these constructs. The humans didn't panic. They didn't run. They analyzed. When the constructs landed, the humans split into quadrants, flanking in silence. One vanished from satellite view entirely, only to reappear seconds later behind a Guardian's optical blind spot. It was down in under 3 seconds. Dismantled, repurposed. Its dismembered limbs became spears, shields, and signal blockers. The humans were now moving through the Deathworld unseen. Not as prey. Not as survivors. As predators in foreign territory that now belonged to them. The Vaskari leader, Ordax, stared in disbelief. No species should be this versatile. Not without ritual augmentation. Not without generational engineering. But the data didn't lie. The humans weren't designed. They were refined. By war. By failure. By necessity. Everything the Accord had tried to suppress in their own civilizations. Meanwhile, back at the summit, the mood shifted. Species that once scoffed now questioned alliances. Smaller empires weighed their options. Trade partners reran their risk matrices. Military analysts requested historical logs. Earth's conflicts, Earth's plagues, Earth's rise. They discovered something unexpected. Humanity had never started the wars. They simply finished them. Brutally. Efficiently. Unapologetically. The Talvath initiated a probe. A covert test to measure Earth's planetary defense latency. The probe never returned. Instead, a message played across Talvath diplomatic channels. "We don't respond to warnings. We respond to actions." Signed, Earth Strategic Command. The message had no emotion. No signature. Just wait. On Carthix 9, the final stage began. The Crucible. Participants were now to be brought to a central convergence zone, where alliances typically frayed, trust dissolved, and war broke out. Most species used this as their final display, fighting one another for apex recognition. The humans arrived first. They didn't set up camp. They fortified a position, distributed vantage points, and started manipulating the environment. When the other species arrived, they found the terrain already altered. Entrances narrowed. Flora redirected. Visibility compromised. The humans had restructured the battlefield hours before it became one. Most groups walked into trap. Not lethal ones. Instructional ones. Crushed under their own arrogance. Snared by assumptions. By the end of the Crucible, the humans hadn't fired a single bullet. They didn't need to. They watched, logged outcomes, and presented data to the summit in real time. This is how the galaxy dies, one line read, not by war, but by tradition. The final tally: humans suffered 0 casualties. All 4 participants extracted without injury. Every major Deathworld species recorded at least 1 fatality. Many suffered total operational collapse. The Vascari withdrew their challenge in silence. The Kravari sealed their warpacks into cryopurge. The Clorox began emergency genetic re-evaluation. And Earth did not gloat. Instead, they issued a statement: "We didn't come here to win. We came here to stop you from losing everything." The summit struggled to respond. Ancient protocols were dusted off. Emergency council formats restructured. Humanity was offered a seat, not at the center, but at a new table. One forged in silence. One without ritual. One built for result. The humans refused. Torres, Rourke, and the others returned to Earth silently. Their message had been received. Their warning understood. In their absence, fear filled the gap. Galactic empires began dismantling ritual war programs. Planets long used for proxy conflicts were declared neutral zone. Peace treaties that once lasted hours now stretched into years. Not because of diplomacy, because of dread. It became known as the Silent Reform. A galactic shift not prompted by threat, but by demonstration. For the first time in remembered history, apex predators collectively agreed on one thing: never give the humans a reason to come back. And yet, Earth made no further declarations. No fleets were dispatched. No armies mobilized. Just silence. That silence was worse than war. What made it unbearable was the knowledge that humanity had already been here, and left not in conquest, but in disappointment. Not because they couldn't destroy, but because destruction would have been too easy. The Accord changed that cycle. No more ceremonial wars. No more extinction tests. A new doctrine, the Apex Contingency. Structured by fear, authored in shadows, its first and only rule was simple: never provoke the species that adapts by watching you fail. Across the Deathworld Alliance, strategic doctrines collapse. The Kravari dismantled their honor duels. The Vascari erased millennia of combat schooling. The Clorox burned their hive codices in mass auto-immolation rituals. Not by command, but by consensus. One species had redefined the apex hierarchy without conquest, and no one wanted to test them twice. The change wasn't just military. It was ontological. For the first time, Deathworld species questioned what it meant to be dominant. They had trained for chaos, engineered for survival, optimized for slaughter. Yet the humans had succeeded not by maximizing violence, but by minimizing waste. They didn't rely on superiority, they created leverage. In closed sessions, elite war councils whispered human terminology: asymmetry, overmatch, entropy loops, decision latency. Their language, their strategies, their psychology. It became mandatory study in military academies. Not to imitate, to avoid. One Kravari tactician put it best: we don't prepare to fight humans. We prepare to make sure they never notice us again. And yet, Earth remained still. No ambassadors were sent. No fleets launched. Just continued internal development. What they were building, no one knew. Orbital traffic showed megastructures. Silent. Encrypted. Possibly automated. Their own solar system became opaque to foreign scans. Not shielded, non-reflective. Like light itself refused to cooperate. Attempts to infiltrate Earth's network failed. Each AI probe returned corrupted or inert. One Talvith intelligence drone came back intact, but with all memory clusters overwritten with coordinates to an uninhabitable black hole. A message was attached. We don't hide because we're afraid. We hide because you should be. But not everyone was deterred. In the outer spiral, an emergent war species, the Call, watched humanity with fascination, not fear. They had no history with the Accord, no genetic memories of Earth's retaliation. Their culture thrived on challenge. Where others saw warnings, they saw invitations. They launched an expedition. Unannounced. It never reached Sol. Instead, they encountered a listening post in deep void space, orbiting nothing, radiating silence. It didn't fire. It simply transmitted a burst of data across call channels. Within 6 hours, the entire expedition fleet folded back to call space. None of them spoke. Not immediately. And when they did, their ruling caste resigned. The burst had contained one file: Earth's global history of war. Every conflict, rebellion, genocide, insurrection, assassination, and uprising. Not redacted. Not sanitized. Raw. Dated. Indexed. In every call dialect. The message below read, "You are late to something you don't understand." The Accord took notice. Earth hadn't fired a shot in over 5 standard cycles, yet their influence expanded. Former war species aligned with Earth's silence. Resources rerouted. Threats neutralized before escalation. Pirate factions went missing. Insurgent campaigns ended with leaders disappearing. Earth denied involvement. Offered no proof. Issued no claim. But they were involved. Earth had begun cultivating something the galaxy had no defense against: patience. They weren't reacting to threats. They were preventing futures. Back on Xeron Prime, a classified meeting of the Accord's Emergency Continuity Council convened. Their agenda was simple: what to do about Earth. Not militarily, those plans were dead. Not diplomatically, Earth had no diplomat. They weren't expanding territory. They weren't manipulating currencies. They weren't fighting. But somehow they were winning. One Clorox elder proposed genetic regression, unspooling Earth's development through chronoviral assault. The motion failed. The Talvath had already tried. The virus mutated before deployment. Became more intelligent. The Vascari suggested spiritual destabilization. Infecting human mythos with existential collapse. Psychological warfare. The counterargument: humans already believed in collapse. They trained in it. Thrived in it. Earth's major religions included end-of-days doctrines. They'd practiced for annihilation. The last proposal was desperate. Contact. Not through aggression or diplomacy. Through vulnerability. And so the message was sent. Not to Earth's leadership, but to the 4 humans who had sat at the central table during the summit. The message was brief: "We understand now. Teach us." It was Rourke who answered. "We didn't come to teach. We came to warn. Learning was your responsibility." And yet the humans didn't refuse. They offered a signal. One-time use. One location. No cameras. No weapons. No fleets. An invitation to witness, not Earth, but what came after. 3 Accord species accepted. They traveled light, without escorts, expecting to meet on neutral ground. They arrived at a station that didn't exist on any registry. Its design was wrong. Not alien. Just advanced past functionality. It bent space without warp, absorbed light without darkness. Inside, they found nothing but chairs and a projection node. Then it played. It wasn't a lecture. It was a simulation. A future. Not hypothetical. Predicted. Not by dreams or prophecy. By modeling. The galaxy 500 cycles ahead. No Accord. No Deathworlds. No war. Not peace either. Efficiency. Species had merged. Not biologically. Structurally. Empires had become networks. Conflict had become error correction. War wasn't needed because no one could afford the waste. And at the center of it all, Earth. Not ruling. Not controlling. But understood as the fulcrum. The pivot point that stopped the galaxy from devouring itself. The simulation ended with one phrase. "This is what we prevented." The delegates returned changed. Not afraid. Just displaced. As if history had moved without them. When they tried to describe it, their languages failed. Concepts lacked syntax. It wasn't a vision of domination. It was discipline. Carved in suffering. Forged in limits. Maintained by vigilance. A new protocol emerged. Unwritten. Unspoken. Viral in nature. Don't provoke the humans. Follow their silence. Study their restraint. Because if they ever stop holding back, there won't be a second warning. On fringe planets, their name became folklore. Not monsters. Not gods. Precautions. Children were taught not to disturb the black sky too loudly. Miners halted operations if strange signals echoed near Sol. Cartographers labeled Earth's territory not with coordinates, but with a single glyph, closed. Not because humans wanted isolation, because the galaxy couldn't handle their attention. Eventually, the summit disbanded. Not formally. No vote was cast. It simply stopped being necessary. The systems that enforced war had collapsed under their own irrelevance. The predators had lost interest in rituals. The prey had learned new rules. Without firing a shot, humanity had ended the age of conquest. Not by peace. By maturity. What lingered after was unease. Not about Earth's power. About their purpose. Because deep in every galactic mind, one truth remained. Humans didn't come to dominate. They came to intervene. And if they ever returned in force, it would mean the galaxy had failed itself again. It would mean the apex had been broken. And this time, they wouldn't fix it with warnings. They would correct it.